Did Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 live up to the hype? Well, to answer that question, I think it's best that we look at what made the season of Jujutsu Kaisen so hyped to begin with. Firstly, Season 1 was a massive hit. It was aired during late 2020, during the peak of COVID and close to the peak of TikTok, when everyone was stuck indoors with nothing better to do than to scroll the internet, meaning that many eyes were brought upon the fresh shonen anime, mostly due to the Gojo thirst traps. So with so many fans of Season 1, naturally there'd be a lot of hype around the idea of Season 2. There's also the fact that so many of these anime watchers then went on to read the manga. The famous Shibuya arc is regarded as one of the best arcs in all of new gen anime, filled with fighting, crazy new characters, and constant action. And manga readers, being the disease that they are, couldn't help but let the internet know of all that was to come in the Shibuya arc, as well as Gojo's past arc, which was also known as the Hidden Inventory arc. Mappa's involvement in the animation also gave more anticipation for this season, as the studio had a great reputation coming straight off of Chainsaw Man. But all of this is just a piggyback to the main reason why people were so hyped for Season 2. The fact that Season 1 was so solid. The characters were interesting and fairly well fleshed out for only 24 episodes. The power system was unique, the mystery was captivating, and the thirst amongst audiences was all too real. But even the fan service made Season 1 stand out, as contrary to most anime, the fan service was evenly spread across genders, giving incentive for both genders to enjoy a bit of mild fan service. You could even say the scale was tipped in favor of the men fan service a little bit. But the most solid part of Season 1, by far, was the fighting. The limits of what defines a battle is stretched thin in Jujutsu Kaisen, all due to the unique power system. Curse techniques and domains help to keep the fights interesting and creative, as opposed to some anime where the fighting style becomes stale. For example, let's look at the fight between the Jujutsu High Sorcerers and Hanami. There are multiple stages to this fight, and each is as beautiful as the next, piggybacked off of each individual's unique style of fighting and curse technique. Firstly, Inumaki uses his curse speech to slow Hanami down. Then we see a mix of Kamo, Megumi, and Maki's efforts using their own personal style of fighting, which was then followed up with Yuji and Todo's incredible chemistry. This was the moment where we saw Yuji's consecutive black flashes and Todo's boogie woogie, which by the way is, in my opinion, the best technique in Jujutsu Kaisen. It's so simple yet effective in almost any situation, and it makes for a spectacle to watch as the limits of creativity can be redefined. Not to mention how it's a perfect technique for team play, aka jumping, which Jujutsu Kaisen seems to love so much. So the fighting during Season 1 was nothing short of a masterpiece, and considering Season 2 was set to cover some of the biggest, most intense fights of the series, yeah, of course there would be a lot of interest. There was set up to be Gojo vs Toji, Sukuna vs Jogo, Sukuna vs Mahoraga, Megumi vs Toji, Yuji vs Choso, and the list goes on. The constant adrenaline and excitement was the main enticement for this season. There were a lot less character moments, and that is one of the general complaints of this season, especially the fact that Nobita wasn't given enough screen time before her end. But considering Jujutsu Kaisen is a battle shonen, many people didn't mind the fact that this season was less character heavy than the last. And the fact that this season is so action heavy also lends to its hype, because fighting and action tends to lead to more hype than character centered stories. Alright, so now we know why Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 was so hyped up. So let's now cover the main topic of the video and debate on the idea of whether the hype was actually lived up to or not. Some people believe it did, others think it didn't. So I'll be looking at both viewpoints and laying out the facts to answer this debate. And to make things easier, I'll split this up into two sections: the Hidden Inventory arc and the Shibuya Incident arc. Firstly, looking at Gojo's backstory, aka the Hidden Inventory arc. These 5 episodes covered the relationship between Gojo and Geto while they were still both students at Jujutsu High. This relationship gave the audience some insight into the main conflict of the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie, by showing Geto's fall from grace and how he ended up with the ideals that he had during the movie. We also get a better look into Gojo's character, which sums up the fact that he's always been cocky and hard. But what was really interesting was seeing him without the mastery of his technique, or his infinity, which is the constant shield that he always has around him. That being said, the most center point part of this arc was every teenage boy's idol, Toji. Toji was already a well-known character, even before his first appearance in the anime. And this is all due to the fact that he was hyped up by manga readers, and Toji definitely lived up to this hype. The fight between him and Gojo was incredible. He showed us what a fully awakened Maki could look like with his peak physical prowess, speed, and weapon mastery. And those juicy biceps. Oh lord. He was overall just such a cool character, and the entire internet seemed to think so, as edits of their fight appeared all over YouTube and TikTok, bringing more eyes and more attention to this character, and just making even more people want to watch simply just to see Toji in action. But it wasn't just Toji versus Gojo that carried this arc. The backstory was really interesting to see. The character dynamics were funny and enjoyable, and Rika's death was a needed reminder of Jujutsu Kaisen's raw adult themes. So in conclusion, all of this to say that the hidden inventory arc definitely lived up to its hype. So now let's direct our attention towards the Shibuya incident arc. Episodes 6, 7, and 8 were the first few episodes of the Shibuya incident, and they covered a lot of setup and a few minor fights, like Mikamaru versus Mahito and Yuji versus the Grasshopper Curse. But there wasn't much hype around these episodes, and that fact was reflected within the audience. For example, this Reddit thread that talks about Season 2 not living up to its hype. This thread was created 3 episodes into the Shibuya arc, and from what I observed, people were not feeling very hyped about the Shibuya arc at this point, especially anime watchers who weren't aware of what was to come. Many complaints came from the Yuji versus Grasshopper fight. The Grasshopper was an uninteresting opponent and the fight didn't deserve the screen time it got. But then episode 9 dropped, and for many this was where the arc really started to pick up its pace. Episode 9 covered the fight between Gojo and the Disaster Curses. It also touched on Gojo and Geto's reunion and Gojo's sealing. On IMDb, this episode boasts a 9.7 rating out of 10,000 reviews, as opposed to the episode prior which has a fairly mediocre 8.0 rating. That same episode that saw Yuji versus the Grasshopper. And then from episode 12 to 22, there was at least 1 if not 2 major fights going on per episode. Each episode also boasted incredible animation, the type of animation effort you'd see put into movies or series finales. But this continuous action and studio effort didn't equal hype for some. Many complaints were raised that there was too much action, that people felt like they were going numb from overstimulation, and that the hype was taken away because there were no breaks or many focused character moments. It felt like there was action just for the sake of trying to portray the season as being hype. But that's just one side of the argument. The other side saw the never-ending action as a positive. Those who enjoy battle shonen anime want nothing more than to see massive battles of strength, where characters are pushed to their absolute limits. And in every episode, fighting basis wasn't a problem for these people. They enjoyed having another boost of adrenaline and excitement to look forward to each week. I'm actually interested to know, what side would you put yourself on? Would you have preferred episode breaks between fights, or did you enjoy the continuous action? Let me know in the comments. Another complaint of the constant action was that it meant there weren't many character moments. And considering the fact that Jujutsu Kaisen gained its initial hype and popularity because of the characters, for many the season was a letdown due to the lack of the warm fuzzy feeling moments. The characters were always just too caught up in something. Although episode 6 did touch on the relationship between Yuji, Megumi, and Nobita, we saw the dynamic of them just being normal friends, normal teenagers. There was no worry about curses or fighting someone, it was just them living in the moment. But looking to IMDb, this episode only got an 8.0 rating, which actually makes it the lowest rated episode of this entire season, which then leads me to believe that people are watching for the action. And considering the episodes with the action are highly rated, I do have to say that for most, they'll believe that JJK lived up to the hype. Of course, each individual person will have their own unique opinion about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, but by looking at the facts, my final statement is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 most certainly lived up to the hype.